Well, the entire internet across the world might be down, but you know what is not down? That is morale in Broncos country, because the NFL hates what these Denver Broncos are doing. And each and every day, these lazy reporters who are sleeping on this team, not coming to practices and actually seeing what is happening, are getting more fodder to be frustrated with what the Denver Broncos are doing. And we have more of that news today. We're going to break that down and a ton more in this video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and it helps me out a lot if you like the Broncos too, if you would like and subscribe. So we know that in place of actual journalism, one of the things that really gets easy clicks is outrage and holdouts and QB competitions. And what we're seeing in Broncos country is that Sean Payton has a tight-knit group, a college energy that he's talked about over and over and over again. And we are seeing that culture beat out all these other teams as we are seeing infighting and so much coming out of them. And so what we are already hearing is that with training camp just around the corner, so many disgruntled wide receivers are already announcing that they plan to be holding out. We remember the Brandon Ayuk drama and him tweeting out pictures of the Washington Commanders practice, really kind of hinting at the fact that he wants to play with his friend Jaden. We've heard that there are multiple Cowboys who are planning on holding out. We have also had it confirmed that Amari Cooper, the former Oakland Raider, and now where is he? We're going to look at that in 1 second here, but we're already seeing so many people come out and say like, hey, they're going to hold out. So CeeDee Lamb needs a new deal. Unlike the Denver Broncos front office that had everything locked down and signed Quinn Miners before it even became a problem, and are expecting to do the same this year with Cooper and Browning and probably Pat Surtain. Jerry Jones kept kicking the can down the road with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and they're both disgruntled. And so we have CeeDee Lamb is going to hold out. Brandon Ayuk has already confirmed that he also will be holding out. One of the tackles from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an edge rusher from the Jets, which makes them even regret giving up John Franklin Myers for next to nothing to us, even more salt in the wound. And now Amari Cooper, who is playing Batman to Jerry Judy's Robin, is also announced that he is going to be holding out. And I just think we played the Browns this year. Fantastic news. Like, I cannot wait to hear Mile High erupt when Jerry Jeudy has multiple key drops on third down. And already you see the trains going off the tracks with Amari Cooper. So what's going on with the Denver Broncos and our disgruntled wideout, who even amidst his not showing up to a voluntary minicamp, we remember he came to the one that was mandatory. Even during his absence from the voluntary workouts, he's sending out tweets, sending out social media messages about how his goal remains to be in the Broncos Ring of Fame, and his goal remains, present tense, to be a Bronco, to win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. And now what we see is yesterday on Instagram, he tweeted out this picture with the hashtag on the bottom of it, #close. And I'm trying to zoom out so you can see that. Y'all just got to trust me, I guess, or maybe I can unfull screen it if that's where. There we go, right there, with the hashtag close. So while all these other disgruntled wideouts are just throwing a fit already and announcing to the world that they're not going to be there, Cortland Sutton's like, hey, this deal is really close. We're going to make this work with the Denver Broncos. And that is fantastic news. Again, that culture that Sean Payton has talked about, we're actually seeing that embodied in our players, which is fantastic news. So the only thing that the national mainstream lazy media likes more than holdouts, or what the new thing is that wide receivers will do hold-ins, I guess, which is where they show up so that they don't get fined like Marshawn Lynch did, but then they won't actually go through any practices. Media loves covering that because it's easy to write a whole story about it without actually doing any real journalism. The only thing they like more than that is contentious QB controversies. They loved playing up all the hate between quarterbacks. Like, they loved it when Joe Flacco was talking about how he didn't want to be a mentor, or when Brett Favre shunned Aaron Rodgers, and then when Aaron Rodgers shunned Jordan Love, even seeing them try to manufacture that now with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta. And so that if it was an easy storyline, we have a three-way quarterback controversy here in Denver. And so they are like sharks in the water wanting to tell that story. And what's happening is that winning culture, that college culture of collaboration and a bunch of dudes in the trenches together that Sean Payton has talked about. We're seeing embodied again with Bo Nix, who's calling this quarterback competition a respectful one, where he literally said at the end of the day, we're all helping each other out and we're all going to be better for this. And so I just love the fact that there's no fodder going whatsoever to the national media, which is just even further proof to me that those predictions of us winning 5 games is absolute nonsense and absolute noise. So awesome to see Courtland Sutton confident he's coming back. Bo Nix being like, hey, this isn't going to be something you're going to get clicks out of. I know, controversial clicks would probably get me more views, but the fact is, like, Sean Payton is running a tight ship here, and we are going to see that lived out as the Denver Broncos already, like last year, they were 2 games away from the playoffs with a quarterback who couldn't run his system. We have 3 quarterbacks who can run his system now. We're going to have healthy tight ends. We're going to have Javonte back after injuries. Like, we are in very good shape here for the Denver Broncos to shock the world, and I can hardly wait for it. Other good things that, media loves it when, teams make boneheaded mistakes, like the Deshaun Watson deal, like the Russell Wilson deal. Like, it was a laughing stock. What doesn't get reported is when teams do the right thing, and that is exactly what we did. There's been a ton of internal awesome articles about just how smart the Broncos were to lock in Quinn Meinerz, and while that seems like him getting the bag, at the end of the day, had he just waited till the end of this year, he would have gotten so much more money, and that really there are 4 other guards who signed their deals way earlier than him, who he is already slotted under. So he did give us a hometown discount. It does not impact our cap this year. We still have $7.7 million, which if we don't use it, we can roll over to even bite more of the Russell Wilson, which is already the smaller part of the cap. But none of that stuff you're going to see from the national media, just because they only are going to report on us if it's outrage clicks. Last interesting thing here is with training camp just around the corner, I'm dropping a community post here. I'd love to see you vote, and I would love to hear in the comments is like, if the Denver Broncos are going to make a push for the playoffs, and I think a new deal with Courtland Sutton shows definitively that Sean Payton wants to win now. Like, his timeline, Courtland Sutton's timeline, does not match up with a rebuilding timeline because he's north of 30, and if we truly are rebuilding this and tearing this down to the studs and plan on drafting another quarterback next year or something, Courtland Sutton will be like old enough to be president the next time the Broncos make the playoffs, if that's the case. So I think we truly are making a push. And so the question becomes, there are a couple notable free agents out there who could help us, mend some areas of our team that might be weaknesses. And my question in the comments is like, which of these moves, knowing that we have $7.5 million in cap space still for this year, if we were to go out and make one move to shore up a weakness or a hole on this team, what would it be? Awesome article here on Predominantly Orange that goes through the 3 free agent fits that might shore up a Denver Broncos weakness. And so this first one here is the one to me that is most compelling. And this is Connor Williams, who is a former center for the Dallas Cowboys, also a former center for the Texas Longhorns, which I think you say Gig'em or something like that. Or this, I don't know. Let me know. There's a lot of Texas players on this team, so I better learn it. I think all of our safeties right now went to the University of Texas with Caden Stearns, PJ Locke, and Brandon Jones. I think Malcolm Roach went there too, so we got a lot of University of Texas boys on here, and they're pretty good at football. I watch Friday Night Lights. I should know. So the question becomes, which of these dudes would you want to see the Denver Broncos come up to kind of cover a weakness? So Connor Williams, if you look at some of his film, dude was an absolute beast. Here was him at Texas several years ago and just like mauling guys. He had some flashes in the NFL where you saw a lot of potential, and you've seen some injuries. I think this was where's the one? There's one here that had he was a top 5 center, and there's some here it is. So you're going to see some highlights of him right after the Indianapolis Colts one. So he's going to be right on the screen here in a second. But do you trust Zach Strief? So watch that. I mean, just taking dudes straight out there. So you do see some potential set there. So do you see Zach Strief being able to coach him up in the same way that we saw him coach up Quinn Meinerz and being able to take Alex Forsyth and make him a starter? Or would the Denver Broncos be better to go out and get somewhat more of a sure thing in getting Connor Williams here? Other options that it kind of laid out was Eddie Jackson, and just talking about how he could come in and fit here. To me, I actually feel really good about this safety room. I think Caden Stearns has the potential of being a starter once he's fully healthy, and then I feel great about PJ Locke, obviously, and I feel like the upside on Brandon Jones is through the roof, and so I'm okay not bringing in Eddie Jackson. If anything, if for whatever reason, if the season starts and Justin Simmons is like, hey, I'll take a vet minimum to come back, like that would be my vote for safety. And the last one it brought up here, and there have been a ton of articles about this, of like the Broncos getting another defensive line help, or even making a trade for someone like a Max Crosby, because we do not have that standout edge rusher. We haven't had an edge rusher who's gotten more than 10 sacks since Bradley Chubb back in 2019. So which of these position groups do you think the Broncos should try to shore up in free agency, or do you trust the dudes that we have? I'm leaning towards trusting the dudes we have, especially at defensive line. I feel like we made huge improvements there, and definitely feeling good about our safety room, but very curious to see what you all think we should do before training camp starts next week. We got a lot to believe in. 3 days in a row. Let's go.